Syrian state media says its air defences have intercepted missiles targeting air bases near Homs and Damascus overnight. The Pentagon has said its forces were not involved. Israel has refused to comment. It comes as international chemical experts in Syria are waiting to gain access to the site of a suspected chemical attack in Douma, which took place 10 days ago. The Russian Defense Ministry says they'll be allowed in on Wednesday. Russia's military has already visited the site, as has a reporter with CBS News, Seth Doane.
This was rebel territory until 2 days ago, and today we made it to the very house where that suspected chemical attack took place. All of a sudden, some gas spread around us, this neighbor recounted. We couldn't breathe. It smelled like chlorine. Syrian forces recaptured this area from rebels over the weekend. That means they now control this building where this video was taken.
This is your brother here?
Nasser Hanan's brother Hamze is seen in that activist video, lifeless and foaming at the mouth. In the kitchen, he told us how his brother had tried to wash off the chemicals.
How did the chemicals get here?
The missile up there, he pointed, on the roof.
We asked him to take us to where the missile allegedly hit, and he took us up here and pointed there.
Where we found a missile neatly resting. Syria insists there was no chemical attack, while the US, France, and UK blame Syria. And since those coalition airstrikes, Bashar al-Assad's government has tried to show it was unaffected, today highlighting their military gains.
This is exactly what the Syrian government wants us to see. Syrian forces here in Douma and back in control.
Rebels had run this Damascus suburb since 2012, and the intense campaign to recapture it started in February with Russia's help.
This was apparently a bomb-making factory for rebels here in the heart of Douma. You can see the makings of fins for mortars over here, and take a look down here. You see this bin that appears to be homemade grenades.
The human toll of the fighting was evident in the main square this afternoon.
Hundreds of thousands of civilians have been living here, many without food for months. You can see the desperation here, people just hoping for some bread.
We asked this mother of 5 why she didn't leave if the fighting had been so bad. We tried more than once, she told us, but the rebels wouldn't let us go.
9 days have already passed since that suspected chemical attack, and if weapons experts do make it to that building, they could find a scene that may have been tampered with, and eyewitness accounts that can be confusing and contradictory. Seth Doane, CBS News for BBC News, Damascus.
So why are Russia and Syria allowing a journalist onto the site of the alleged attack, but not the weapons inspectors? I asked our Middle East correspondent, Martin Patience, in Beirut.
I think that's an excellent question. It's one that I can't answer. What we do know is that both Russia and the Syrian government, they wanted this team on the ground, particularly in the run-up to those Western airstrikes. Well, that team arrived in Damascus the day of the Western airstrikes on Saturday. Russia is now suggesting they will get in on Wednesday. We'll have to wait and see if that actually happens. Now, American officials have accused the Russians of perhaps tampering with the scene. That's been denied by Moscow. But yesterday, we had kind of extraordinary scenes, arguments over why this team isn't being allowed into Douma. One suggestion was that they didn't have their paperwork in order. Another suggestion was security. But again, if you can take the journalists, why not these inspectors? What is clear is that the longer it takes, the less likely these inspectors are to find any evidence of an alleged chemical attack in Douma.
And Martin, those reports on Syrian media overnight of missile strikes on other parts of Syria, any clarity on what has happened and who might be behind it?
What we know is, all according to Syrian state media, they say that one airbase in the north of the country was targeted. That was the same airbase as America fired cruise missiles at a year ago following an earlier alleged chemical attack. And then another airbase close to Damascus. Now, America's come out and said we didn't carry out any airstrikes overnight, or there was no military activity in that area. Israel has yet to comment, but what we do know is that Israel has carried out dozens of strikes across Syria in recent years. It's not done with the same fanfare that we saw with the Western missile strikes. And what often happens is Israel refuses to confirm or deny that it's carried out that action. But this does appear to fit within that pattern, because what Israel is concerned about is growing Iranian influence in the country. And whilst the focus has been about a Russian-American confrontation on the ground, the real worry in the region is actually about that dynamic between Israel on one side and Iran and Hezbollah on the other.
Martin, Patience in Beirut. You can keep up to date with that investigation into the alleged chemical attack on Douma